An accountant.
What? Say that again.
An accountant. I did that for 40 years, and I loved it. I always messed with weaving, knitting. My mother taught me to sew when I was probably 6 or 7, so I made my own clothes. I always did something along the way that would be considered craft. But when I stopped working and moved down here, then I was free to do whatever I wanted, which has been very liberating and wonderful. Beadwork, what I do with that, I'm making a peyote stitch base that I then embellish. Peyote is up and down one after the other, very regular, follows a grid. That's what accounting is. It's, there's only one way to do it. And you either come out right at the end of the day or you don't. And it's the same with beadwork. You can't do it and have a bead sticking out one side and say, oh, that's all right. It's not all right. You got to rip it out and go back. So I find it very compatible. The Steve Ford class was in '98, I think, up in the Northeast. And the Kathy Dustin class was the first of many. Took a class with Louise Coetzee, several of the major clayers, whatever I could get my hands on. Of course, at some point I said, I've got to work beads into these pieces. And the best way for me to do that was to put a hole in a hollow form and work the beads inside the form and get the business end of the weaving covered up with the back of the piece. I use regular window plastic fiberglass screen. I use Fireline. The only time I have had it fail, I believe that the oven spiked probably to 350 or something like that. But if you keep your oven temperature down where it belongs, this is with the understanding that I don't use Kato, so generally I bake at 275 or in that neighborhood. So I've been trying to incorporate feathers for quite a while. Sometimes they're vertical in the piece in a slot. Sometimes I want them to drape, in which case I have to put some kind of weight on the end of the feathers so they will go up and come back down in a soft drape. So I'm doing that. Sometimes the holes in the hollow pieces will in fact have the screen behind it, and either I do a lot of beadwork in the screen or I'll put one large element in there, like a flat button pearl or something like that. I still sew it down and I glue too. So a big flat piece, I will put glue on the back, I'll put Fireline through the hole, thread it through the screen, tie it on the back, so the glue is attaching it to the screen as well as the extra insurance is the tie down. I am in the Blue Ridge Polymer Clay Guild. It's based in Asheville, North Carolina, which is a wonderful art community. If you get a chance to visit, you should. Irene Semanchuk was responsible for starting that guild, I think probably back in somewhere around 2000. It certainly was up and running when I arrived in Asheville in 2000. She was the glue that held it together for 4 or 5 years. I just love the quality of the material and the fact that you can stumble over something accidentally, which I have done many times, by forgetting it in your studio, going back the next day and finding something that you had no expectation of getting. So that's a part of the medium that I appreciate, I think is not well understood by people who use it. They tend to want to copy what somebody else is doing, when in fact you can just get your hands on this and do whatever you want to with it. Sometimes you fail, sometimes you don't, but it's just a wonderful material. Color mixing, all of it is stupendous. Yes, I stealth market. What's meant by that is that you don't go into a gallery that you like and you would like to see your work. You go and try to pitch I have not ever done that. I go in, I wear something I've made, and if somebody says, "Ooh, I like that, where'd you get it?" then there is a dialogue that begins. If that doesn't happen, then no dialogue begins. Sometimes I'll go back a second time with something different on, and that will, make the snap.